Hello and welcome back. Today is going to be a very much a first impression style video. So this arrived today all the way from the States. Obviously I am based in the UK, so this took a while to get here because I had to use my Stackry account to ship it over. But this is the Crystalac Grand Finale epoxy free top coat. So you may have already heard that I have recently had quite a bad reaction to epoxy, and I'm giving myself a little break from using it just to be sure that it is in fact epoxy that was causing the reaction. So in the meantime, obviously I could not stop with my tumbler making. So I have decided to do, I think I'm going to do a double V-split for this. So we are going to be using this vinyl from Hopefully Created. Love that. So I'm going to use my trusty Jigonometry fold in half to make the V-split style thing, to have this as the V-split, the main one. And then we're going to have another split which is going to have the snowflake foils, and then the top is going to be this fine glitter that you can get from my shop, the littleislaco.com. This fine glitter is called Feelin' Jaded. And then we are going to use this Grand Finale as the top coat. The tumbler I am using is this. This is a 20-ounce stainless steel straight tumbler. It is covered in like paints and stuff. It's obviously been near another one, but this is what we're using. So the paintbrush is because I'm going to go and prep the tumbler first. Always prep your tumblers first. In order to prep this, I'm going to be using this sanding paper, which is a 100 grit sanding block thing. So it's not super coarse, but it's coarse enough to really rough this surface up. And I don't have the original bottle because I always decant it into these spray bottles, but this is 99% isopropyl alcohol. I do believe you could use 91%, but I think anything less than that, you're running the risk of not getting off all the oils and bacteria and stuff from your tumbler. So you can get that. I get this from Amazon. I will link it in the description for you. Side note, sorry, I forgot to mention, can you tell I am so tired today because my 5-year-old has me up at 4:30. 2 mornings in a row. So I forgot to say, this is going to be obviously the V-split on the tumbler, and then we're going to have the foils and the glitter, and then sitting over top of that is going to be this. This is the decal that goes with this vinyl, so it will all tie in really nicely at the end. So now with the 12 by 12, so we are just literally going to fold the vinyl corner to corner. You want to get this as accurate as possible because it helps to neaten up your V-split. So then you'll be left with, we're going to cut down the middle, and then you will be left with the 2 triangles, and then you can just take your pick as to which one you put on your tumbler. So then you just need to decide really which one you want to use on your tumbler. So because it's going to be this way up, so that would be upside down. So do I use this one? That's better because that would be the right way up. Okay. So you can just toss aside the other piece of vinyl and use that on another tumbler another day. Don't worry about the fact that, like I just said, I chose this piece because when I put it on the way up that I want it, this will be the right way up, whereas this one would be upside down. But don't worry about that because you can use it on another tumbler another day. You could even put it up so that you have an upside down V, so that your V-split goes the opposite direction, and then it would be the right way up. So never ever worry. Ooh, that's not supposed to happen. So never worry about wastage. Just put this to the side. Do not bin it. This is the one we're going to use. While I'm still waiting for that tumbler to dry, I have just done a classic me, and I've just changed my mind entirely on what I want to use. So I'm still going to use this as my V-split. I'm still going to use this as the glitter. But now what I've decided to do in this middle V, which will make sense when you see it, is instead of using the snowflake foils, I am instead going to use this pigment. Is the camera going to pick up the sparkle? Oh, I'm not even in the frame. Look at the, I don't know if that's going to pick up on the camera just how insanely sparkly this is. This is a pigment powder that I got from Maxine, who is a small business. She runs a small business here in the UK called Sparkle Designs, and this one is called US of A, and it is a kind of, I thought it was gold, but it's almost like, I mean, I think that is gold, but it's like a platinum, silvery gold, insanely sparkly pigment, and that's going to go in between the vinyl and the glitter. And then I'm going to use the foils as pinstripes in between them. Little bit concerned that this may be a little bit a bit of an overload of sparkles. I don't know. Is there such a thing as sparkle overkill? I don't know, but we're going to find out. And I just have that minute decided to do this. So let's get a little brush to put the pigment on. See what I mean? I'm really bringing you on the journey with me today. Right. So the tumbler is dry. I just went to put on this piece of vinyl that you've just seen me cut, and even with my trusty like trigonometry method, it was still way too big. So in order for the point to meet here, which is what we want, and then to have the V that comes around the front, it would need to sit pretty much flush to the tumbler, but it didn't. It was more like there. There was a huge bit that needed to be cut off. So I want to show you guys, because this is how much I ended up trimming off. So I just want to show you that even when things go wrong, like I couldn't work out how I had cut it wrong. I don't know how that happened, but there is always a workaround. So I literally just trimmed this off. Whoops. And now it fits almost perfectly. There is a teeny tiny bit of overlap at the bottom, but that's okay because we're going to use the edging tool at the end anyway to take a little bit off and expose the bottom of the tumbler, so that when we put on the sealants and the grand finale, it will adhere to the tumbler, not the vinyl. So do not worry if it is a little bit too big. You can always take more off, but you cannot put more back on. So always better to be too big than too small, in my opinion. So my best practice is to peel back an inch or two of the corner of the vinyl, snip off that backing, don't need that anymore. So then we're just going to put down your vinyl wherever you want it, however you're happy with it. Okay, so you want it to look something like that. You want that point to be at the top of the tumbler at the back. And if you're happy with that, then you can take the rest of the vinyl off, and as you squish it around, you just want to get your squeegee or something like that to just slowly but surely kind of push the backing off the vinyl, and that just helps to avoid bubbles or creases when you are going around the like as the vinyl goes onto the tumbler. But you need to be so careful when you do this, because what you do not want to do is scratch off the pattern, especially with printed vinyl. UV-DTF is a little bit more forgiving, but printed vinyl will scratch off at the tiniest little scratch. So just be super, super careful. So that is your printed vinyl on securely. See, no bubbles, no creases, just nice and super smooth. And then, as I say, don't worry about this bottom bit, because we're going to get the edging tool. If you don't have an edging tool, you can just use an X-Acto knife and just go all the way around the bottom. Oh no. What was I saying about being tired today? Who spotted the mistake? Who was shouting at their screen? Guys. What's that meme? That video. Today is not the day and I am not the one. That's how I feel today. So in case anybody was as blind to this as me, I have put it on upside down. I wanted the V to be at the bottom of the tumbler, not at the top, because now it is upside down. So let's try this again. crisis averted. So the next part we're going to do, so we're going to have the here, so this section here, which is going to be the sparkly pigment, and then this top bit is going to be the glitter. So that I'm going to do the glitter first. So you can use any like masking tape for this. I would say masking tape because, like, as opposed to like regular tape or masking tape or painter's tape, because it just means that when you remove it, it will not have any residue. It will not take up the paint that's underneath. And you will have a beautiful, oh, that's not gonna be long enough. You will have a beautiful, nice, sharp line protecting your glitter and your pigment. So now this exposed part here of the paint, this is going to be where we're going to apply the glitter. So if I'd have thought this through, I would have painted this bit green, but I did not think it through, and now I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to go in with 2 coats of this Feeling Jaded fine glitter. If you have one of these trusty little hammers, I got this from Elva at this too. It's just so handy, you know, just to get off that little bit of excess. And then once that glue has had a chance to dry, we're just going to repeat the same process and go in with a second coat until you have the desired coverage of the glitter that you want. Also, don't forget to do the base of your tumbler. In this case, I'm going to do the same green glitter on the base as what I've got in the top. I just think it will pull it together nice and neatly. And of course, do not forget to peel off that tape. If this is just glitter glue, depends what you're using, but if you're just using glitter glue, then you don't need to worry too much about if you leave it on for too long. It's only really if you're using like epoxy resin, for example, as your adhesive, that you need to make sure you get the tape off ASAP. And you'll be left with a nice crisp V. So once you've got your nice crisp line there and you've done a little tidy up right at the bottom, I just like to use like a chipping brush thing like this, just to get off the excess glitter that may have found its way onto the vinyl during the process. I mean, look here, you can see how much is coming off. So make sure you have done all the prep with your glitter, and then the next step is going to be to smush it down. So we are going to use some grease-proof paper. I think if you're in the States, you maybe call it baking paper. I don't know. Anyway, you know the stuff I mean. And we're going to use that to roll the tumbler to really make sure this glitter is lying flat to the tumbler. And that will just help with the sealing, and it will just mean we don't need quite so many coats of, hopefully, of the grand finale in order to get a nice, smooth, shiny finish. Usually when you do this, you will hear, I call it like a crinkling sound, like reminds me of like walking through snow. You'll hear that under the baking paper, so you know it's flattened. I've actually left this overnight, so it's probably dried down too much for this to work properly, but you get the idea. This will just help to make sure that the glitter is fully flattened down. And then you just want to make sure you do the same with the bottom. And then I'm going to use this little brush, which I also got from Maxine from Sparkle Creations, same place where I got the pigment from. So you basically just kind of like brush it on, almost like an eyeshadow, like an old school eyeshadow. So I'm gonna get all this vinyl taped up and protected, and then we'll get this pigment on. Okay, so as you can see, the glue is so thin. It's such a thin layer, you can barely see it. Like, it literally just adds like a shine to the tumbler, and that is what you want to see. You do not want big brush strokes of glue, because then your pigment powder will clump together and it will just be a hot mess. So we're gonna dry this down to just get it tacky, and then we can get the pigment on. Help, why am I like this? Why am I like this? I've changed my mind again. I've changed my mind again. This is the pigment on. I mean, look at the shine. Look at the shine. Oh my goodness. Right, so I was going to use the snowflake foils as the pinstripes. And the pinstripes are basically, so you're going to have one here, you know, and so on. But I've changed my mind again. So I'm going to give this a chance to dry thoroughly, and then I'm actually going to go back to plan A, and I am going to put the foils on this section here. They are snowflakes. Let me show you properly. So when this is open out, I don't know how well the camera is going to pick it up, but do you see the like holographic snowflakes? And then I will just do regular pinstripes. So maybe white, maybe red. Haven't really decided. I'm going to cross that bridge when I get to it, because as you have seen, I tend to change my mind multiple times throughout every creation. So I will come back in half an hour or so once this glue has properly dried. And in the meantime, let's just see a very satisfying, another satisfying peel. Beautiful. This, I will link this in the description box, but this is from Deepika, who runs a small business called Everything Tumblers. Look how pretty that is, that foil. Love that. So I just want a couple of strips of this, really. Okay, so that should work. So all I'm going to do is apply another really thin layer of glue around the pigmented area there, and then we place the foil down, and as we lift it, it will transfer over the top of that pigment there. So I'm just going to use that same tacky glue again, and I'm just going to apply a thin layer just like I did before for the pigment. I haven't protected the vinyl this time, but it should be okay because we're just going to be applying such a little amount of this glue. right up to the edge of the vinyl and the glitter. So we're just gonna press this foil straight over the area where the glue is and just give it a really good rub down. Doesn't matter too much about creases here because when it releases it will still transfer the snowflakes. So I'm just applying a little bit of pressure, so now when we remove the plastic, so pretty. That's so, oh, left a bit behind there. That is so pretty. Look at that. So I've obviously missed a bit here glue wise. So, but this is the beauty of these foils. You just, if you miss a little bit, you just go back over it with glue. Just whilst I'm here, I'm going to do the other side. That is awesome! Oh my God! Okay, I think I'm happy with that now. It just adds a little bit of sparkle. It's quite subtle, but I don't know, I just think that looks really cool. So I'm gonna go and give this a coat of this. This is the Rust-Oleum Crystal Clear Protective Coat. So it's basically, clear gloss finish. So it is just a clear spray paint, which will go over the whole of this tumbler to lock in the glitter, the foils, the pigment. Okay, we are back. It is the next day. So this has had the clear spray paint coat, and now I'm going to seal it with Bright Tone because I think I said before, I had heard that they can be used, the Crystalac products can be used interchangeably, and I have seen so many people using the Bright Tone to seal their tumblers before they then go in with the grand finale. Sorry, what you can't see is I'm trying to get this. I didn't notice this little bit of tape. Right, let's get that off. Ooh, okay, it is. That is full to the brim. So I have seen people applying this with a brush and with a gloved or not gloved finger. So I think I'm going to go, I think I'm going to use a brush. So everything I have watched, I watched a video from Crystalac themselves on how to apply a coat of Bright Tone. And basically you dip, you don't like rub it off, you literally just kind of dip, tap off, like literally just drop off the excess. Can you see what I'm doing here? So you dip, kind of shake like that, and then straight on, because any kind of rubbing it off can introduce like bubbles or something. So, okay, here goes. This feels really alien. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but I think it's just the simple fact that it is a new product that I've never used before. So let's just go straight in. We don't hang around over here. We're going to go straight in with this product. Okay, it's time. So this has been drying for 4 hours. This is completely now touch dry. So we can go in with the first coat of Grand Finale. So I have no clue what I'm doing with this. I have no idea how much I'm supposed to use or what at a time. So I've just put some in this little medicine cup thing because I don't have a nozzle on the bottle. So I'm just gonna I mean, it's very, very liquidy, I will say. It literally feels like water. This is so different if you're coming from epoxy like me. This is not like a thick like you could literally just pour it and it would just slowly spread. This is going to go everywhere, I feel like. So I'm going to use the same brush I used before. Obviously it's been washed and dried. So I guess I need to turn the spinner on. That would be helpful. So I think you just brush it on. Just the same way I did with the bright tone. It feels very smooth. The only thing I don't know about with Grand Finale is what do we do about micro bubbles? Like I can see as I'm applying this, and this is not exclusive to Grand Finale. I noticed this with other epoxy-free top coats I've used in the past. You do get these teeny tiny micro bubbles, and I don't know if maybe if you just leave them, they will pop on their own as it's drying. I'm not really sure. So anyone watching this that is a seasoned Grand Finale user, please drop any recommendations or any hints and tips in the comments, because I would really appreciate them. Because I am completely, but then I suppose, would you be watching this if you were a seasoned user? Would you be watching my first impressions video? Probably not. But if you are a seasoned user, please help a girl out, because I have no clue what I'm doing here. It's funny as well, because where it is obviously not as thick, not quite so prominent as epoxy, I'm finding it quite difficult to see if I've covered everywhere. Although I will say the amount that I just poured into this little medicine cup does seem to have been enough. Like I don't feel like I need to put more on now. Although the only thing I do seem to remember seeing somewhere is like, don't overwork it. Get it on your tumbler and walk away. Oh, that's just so hard to listen to when you can see these little bubbles, and so I'm just not sure. Not sure. Anyway, I'm gonna just play by the rules, do what they say. So this is on, I think properly. I'm just not sure, you guys. Just not sure. These little tiny micro bubbles. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I can bring you in just to show you what I'm talking about. I thought if I brought you in closer, you might be able to see, but I'm not convinced. Ah, here. Can you see here? What is this? These micro bubbles. It's like, it almost looks like soap suds. But anyway, I'm not going to keep playing with it because I'm just concerned that I'm going to make it worse. So we'll see. Okay, so this is how we are looking after the 2 hours. So most of those bubbles have vanished, and we have actually got a really nice, I can feel already it has smoothed over the surface, less so here. And if you can hear that, it still sounds quite grainy. So we're obviously going to need to do quite a few more coats, but most of the bubbles have gone. Where did I split? There's one here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but so there are some that did not pop on their own, but for the most part, I would say about 90% of the bubbles that we saw before have gone. I have, in the meantime, I have spoken with somebody at Crystalac, and I posted a video in the, it's like a Crystalac support Facebook group, and I asked them if this is normal, like how do we get rid of these micro bubbles? And they said it looks as though there is either too much product, or it may not have been warm enough in the room when it was trying to dry out. I guess the warmth helps to pop the bubbles. Oh, and the other thing they suggested was blowing the bubbles with a little straw. So if that, and using slightly less product. So there are lots of things that we can try for the upcoming coats to make sure that the micro bubbles disappear before they have a chance to dry down. So, but I'm impressed so far. So I'm going to continue to do however many coats of the Grand Finale until I feel like we have a smooth enough surface to apply the pinstripes and the decal. Also, just to note, I'm about to go in with the second coat of the Grand Finale, and this time I have actually measured out 20 millilitres of the Grand Finale, because before I just kind of filled this medicine cup and had no clue how much I was using. So I'm going to try and stick to 20 mils per coat and see how we get on. Okay, I feel like I've already seen the error of my ways in the first coat, because first of all I changed brushes. So I've just used this, like, I don't know, is it a Taklon brush? I don't know what this would be called, but it's like a much flatter brush anyway than the big kind of blusher brush thing I was using before, because that would have soaked up a lot of the product, and obviously this one has not. And you will have seen that I applied it a lot more kind of intentionally, rather than just kind of like slathering it on. I can still see some teeny tiny bubbles, but now I feel like I've got a thorough coat, and I've just looked and there is just below 15 mils left in here. And I remember I started with 20. So I've used what, 5, maybe 7 mils for this coat. So now I'm not sure whether that is now far too little and I should have used more, or whether that's about right. I don't know. This is why this is the first impressions, because it's all very much like trial and error. So we'll see how this is looking in another 2 hours. So this is after 2 coats. This bit is very smooth, really nice. This bit though, still quite gritty. So I think I'm gonna probably keep going until I feel like it is quite a bit smoother, in honesty, before we get on these pinstripes. So here we go, coat 3. Right, this has now had 4 coats and it's actually feeling really good, and I feel confident-ish that I can sand this now. Like, I can feel a few, I mean, it feels smooth, but I can just feel a few little kind of raised areas that I think normally at this point I would sand it. So I'm using a 100 grit sanding sheet, sanding block thing. Okay, coat 5 is on. The only thing I have noticed, which I'm not overly impressed about, is that the glitter, immediately I can tell, looks less sparkly. It definitely looks flatter than it did before, and I can't work out if that is because I've just sanded it and now I've just put this coat over it, and once it's dried clear, whether the sparkle will come back or whether I've just essentially sanded the glitter. So that's concerning, because if I've now sanded the glitter, it is going to stay flat like that. And obviously that would then mean that the Grand Finale hadn't protected it enough when I sanded it, or that I used too coarse of a sanding block. But either way, the product hasn't protected it enough if that is the case. So we'll see. I don't know, we'll see what happens when this is dry. I really hope that sparkle comes back when it's dry. Oh, and one last thing to note, this again with coat 5, I put in 7.5 mils this time, because I felt like the smoother it gets, the less I need to use, and so I used 7.5 mils, and this is how much is left. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably about I don't know, let's see, about 2 mils left in there. So I've literally only used about 5 millilitres that time. So yeah, definitely don't need to use the 20 that I started with. So after the 6th coat of the Grand Finale, the tumbler was definitely smooth enough to put on the pinstripes. So there is the pinstripes on. I think they look really nice. Then I put the decal on. I did not like how the corners of those words went over the sides of the pinstripe, so I cut them to fit. I'm still not 100% sold on it like this, but this is what we've got now. So I went ahead and put on the rest of the Grand Finale coats. So this is what the tumbler is looking like after all. How many coats did I end up doing? This is my super professional note keeping. So we ended up on coat 13. So this is 13 coats of Grand Finale in total. So I did 6 coats earlier in this video of the Grand Finale before I felt it was smooth enough for pinstripes and the decal. Then I did a further 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I've even written it down to remind me. 7 coats since pinstripes. Right, so That is 6 coats of Grand Finale before pinstripes and 7 coats of Grand Finale after the pinstripes and the decal. And that is the point it took. Like, it took up until before I felt like it is now smooth. If you really go like this and really feel, you can feel like there is something underneath it. But for the most part, it is completely smoothed over now. Like, I would be comfortable selling this or drinking from this now. But I do have some notes, mental notes that I have taken on the process of this. So the first thing to note is that, what did I say it was? So 13 coats of an epoxy-free top coat to look this shiny and be this kind of thick. And I mean, listen, you cannot hear a single sound of that glitter. Like, that is completely smoothed over like epoxy now. So after only 13 coats, that is pretty impressive, to be honest, because like I say, I have tried other top coats in the past where I have gotten to 15, 18 coats and still could have kept going, but didn't because it felt like it was getting silly. So to get to 13, including all of the pinstripes and a vinyl decal, bearing in mind, this is a mixed media tumbler as well. So we've got pigment, foils, glitter, vinyl. There's all sorts going on here. So 13 coats, I would say, is very impressive. And I could definitely for sure notice the difference. Like, as each coat went on, I could feel the difference in the tumbler's like texture after that one. Whereas with some of the ones I've used in the past, you could literally be applying coat after coat after coat after coat and it would just not feel any different. And you do have to kind of trust the process. But yeah, so that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is the shine is, I mean, it's undeniable. Look, you can see how it's reflecting my ring light there. That looks absolutely beautiful. So that I'm really happy with. On the not so good side though, the one thing that is really bothering me, and I think I did mention this earlier in the video, let me see if I can find, like here, for example, is the camera going to pick it up? I'm not sure. But there are essentially dried micro bubbles there. So I'm going to tell you a little confession. There's another bubble there. A little confession that I have to make with this, which is, if like me, you are coming from epoxy, you will know that when the epoxy coat goes on, first thing you do while it's on the spinner is use one of these or a butane torch or something and just give it a quick, you know, blitz like that to pop any micro bubbles. And I had read somewhere, I can't remember where, that you're not supposed to do that with this. And I suppose it's for obvious reasons, which, well, mostly being that this is a water-based product. So if you start applying heat to it, especially with a naked flame, you are likely to experience it starting to dry and then it won't be even or level. It hasn't had a chance to, let's say, self-level. So I get why you're not supposed to do that. But I have to be honest, I lost my patience with the micro bubbles. So what I was finding probably 3 or 4 coats ago, so I don't know, maybe on like coat 10, So I put the decal of the pinstripes on after coat 6. So then coat 7 and coat 8. So I would even say, so I got to coat 9 and then I sanded it. And then I think it was around about that time that I was thinking, once I've sanded it and got another coat on, I'd probably be quite happy with that to be the end. Like, it was feeling smooth enough, like it was doing really well. But lo and behold, there was coat 10 and I ended on coat 13. And that is because every time I put another coat on, no matter how many, I took all of the advice that I mentioned earlier in this video from Crystalac. I made sure the room was warm. I used less product at a time. I used somewhere between 5 and, it was closer to like 7.5 mils, but it was anywhere between 5 and 7.5 mils per coat, which is nothing. I blew at the bubbles to try and pop them. I literally would, where's my brush so I can show you? I mean, this isn't the brush that I use. This is an old brush, but just to give you an idea, I literally got the product from the medicine cup, brushed it, and obviously the turner is turning it so it'd be brush like that, and it literally was just like a one, like wet it and forget it kind of situation. So I did everything I knew how to make these bubbles go away, and I just haven't managed to master it. Even now, I can see a little one here. I mean, this is 99% of the way there, like all around the back there is not a single bubble. So actually that's looking pretty good. But that is because when I lost my patience, I did in fact do the blast it method, and not very much. I'm not silly, obviously. I didn't go all over it for it to start like burning the vinyl, because that was my concern as well. But I thought, what is the worst that can happen? If this turns out to be a hot mess, I just have to suck it up. I wanted to see if it would make a difference, and it did, because we all know that heat pops bubbles. Given that this is a first impressions, like I've never used this product before, since I started making this video, I have since made so I've got 3 tumblers that they're all at different stages of their top coat life. So by the time this is finished, I will have done sort of 4 tumblers with the grand finale. So I guess, I mean, this is not a review. This is literally just a first impressions. But I think on the one hand, if it turned out I could never ever use epoxy again, then I would, you know, this is a good alternative. I would obviously choose this, and I would work hard to master it. If it means I can continue living my best sparkly tumbler life. But as it stands with this tumbler and the other 3 that I am working on right now, I would still choose to use epoxy every day of the week if it was not a health risk. That would be my thoughts on Grand Finale so far. So to sum up, I like the product. I will not rave about it at the moment. And I do think there is a little bit of human error. There is room for me to learn how to use it better and how to prevent these bubbles and things like that. So I would say I do enjoy the product, but I would still choose epoxy. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like and please consider subscribing. I would love to have you, and I will see you in the next one.